Welcome to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, headlines and music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wenzel Burns, along my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going, man?
We got 4 people on here, Wellington.
It's a little packed.
Full house.
No, as Savon was saying, we do have 2 special guests, Greco battles, Micaiah Albert. Mr. Greco has been on for past episodes. Thanks so much for being back on, sir.
Appreciate you having me.
And Micaiah Albert, president of the Chiefs fan club. Whenever the Chiefs are about to have a game against the Packers, Chiefs-Packers is coming up this Sunday. Thanks for being on, man.
Always a pleasure, especially this week.
This week. Strategic.
I knew what you were doing, Wellington.
You knew it. Well, we have a lot of NFL and college football topics to get into. To start off with the Eagles win versus Buffalo and kind of, the Bills' missed opportunities. Philly won 37-34 in overtime, and Jalen Hurts ran for the winning touchdown. Josh Allen also had 339 yards and 2 touchdowns. But, now Buffalo's in danger of missing the playoffs after winning the AFC East the past 3 years. To you, Mr. Greco, what did you think about this game? And also just there were so many moments. It looked like Buffalo should have had it. This is a game I think they should have won, but they really shot themselves in the foot multiple times.
They really did. Buffalo all season has just been all over the place. Okay, but it kind of mirrors their quarterback, Josh Allen. If you look at his stats, he's got all pro stats. His numbers look good, but he's victim of those turnovers. And and if for Buffalo to be good, they've got to flow with him and how he works. They've got a lot of injuries. They still don't have a full 100%. Nobody does at this time of the season. But they've got a lot of injuries that's been affecting them. So I never thought their team really had a chance to glue this year. Right. But yet and still, that's where that coach. I have a feeling that this coach might be starting to lose his grip a little bit with this team.
Sean McDermott.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got problems here every week. If it's not Diggs upset, it's the other wide receiver, Davis. He's out of sorts. What have you. And, if they get together and just try to work with each other, they might be a little better off. But I really thought they had this game. They totally blew it, as far as I'm concerned. Philadelphia just does what Philadelphia does. To me, they're still really almost just like the most complete team in the league. But they still look beatable to me. I still think they can be beat. But they do what they do to win each week. And I think that's a credit in their hat.
Yeah, and that's the thing I wanted to get to. The Eagles, even though they are winning all these games, there still is some vulnerability in some of these outcomes. So you, Micaiah, what did you think about this? Obviously, you're an expert in seeing the Bills and what they can't do against the Chiefs. That 13 seconds left, and they weren't able to close it out. What did you think about this outcome?
Ooh.
And also just what Philly can build on going forward.
Listen, I could say so much, about the Bills and just pile drive them into the ground, but I think, I don't want to ruin Bills fans any more than what they are. As far as this game went, just exactly what you guys said. This is, I don't want to say that the Eagles gave up this game, but the Bills definitely should have had this one. This was one that I feel like they should have gone out and taken. Usually, and you guys have known from the past episodes I've been on, I'm very critical of Josh Allen. The narrative of him being up and down, kind of like a roller coaster. You never know what you're going to get one week from next week. He very much seems to play either up or down to his competition, depending on who they're playing that week. And he had a great game, honestly. I think they had the one pick, if I remember correctly. I don't have his stats pulled up. I think he had one pick, but I think it wasn't even really necessarily a bad pick. I think it was kind of a little bit of both his receiver and him being miscommunication. Other than that, I think 300 plus yards, 3 TDs. I think he had a good amount of rushing yards. So this one, I actually put a lot more on McDermott, just not calling the correct plays that was going to put his weapon in Josh Allen, because for better or for worse, their best player is Josh Allen, and not putting him in a good position to win that game on the final drive. Instead, just taking for granted, we'll just kick the field goal and we'll go into overtime. When you're literally Sean McDermott, everyone wants to joke about Josh Allen being winless in the overtime since they changed the overtime rules. Well, that's a head coaching problem just as much as it is the quarterback problem being winless in overtime. Yeah. So I put this one a lot more on Sean McDermott. As much as I like to give Josh Allen crap, This one to me was a lot more on the head coaching decision in terms of not being aggressive and going out and taking that game when it was there for the taking.
Yeah, absolutely. To you, Savon, how did you kind of feel about the outcome of this game? We have mentioned like a lot of times in the past few weeks about how we feel as though the Bills are really an underachieving team. They have so much talent that they could be a lot better. What did you think about the way the game ended and also just, the missed opportunities Buffalo had?
Again, one of the, like Mr. Greco said, one of the most complete teams in NFL, and they still haven't played a complete game, unblemished, clean, no penalties. I mean, that's unheard of these days, but they still haven't played a complete game, and they're still finding a way to win. Now, I agree that McDermott should have gave Allen a better shot to take it down the field instead of going into overtime. This is the best game the Bills offense has played all season. They went back to the basics. When Josh Allen first got into the league, he was this outstanding quarterback because he was extending plays. They were running him more. He had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yes, sir.
He got the ball
Yes,
out of his
sir.
hand quick. He was more decisive. He was accurate. He was confident. And him running the ball gave him that. And the offensive line gave him a clean pocket when it matters most. Yeah, they gave up some pressures, but that's where he's good at. He's in that pocket to be able to rush out and extend plays, and that's what he was doing. He was comfortable. You have to have a confidence at the head coach to give it to your starting quarterback. And he was showing all game that he can go down there and take it out of the overtime situation and win the game. They had the opportunity and they missed it. You can't give the Eagles any opportunity to shut the game down and win.
They let them hang around
and I
too
think
long.
just
let them hang around way too long.
This was a coaching error. This game was a coaching error. We were talking about Josh Allen playing hero ball all year. This is the first game he played a complete game like he used to, settle down, decisive, ball out his hands, standing plays, and then the head coach just killed it for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm moving on to the Ravens win versus the Chargers. Baltimore won 20-10 on the road, and Zay Flowers had a touchdown catch and ran for a game-sealing score late in the fourth quarter. The Ravens also forced 4 turnovers. And it's interesting because, like, the Chargers, they almost, like, are like the younger Bills because so many times they have opportunities as well. They can't capitalize on it. Baltimore has looked like one of the best teams in the AFC, but it was a shaky win for them. It wasn't anything impressive. To you, Mr. Greco, what did you think about this outcome? And also, just how do you feel about Baltimore overall as an AFC contender?
Well, I'll say this in that I'll preface it by saying my preseason pick, I had Baltimore and Buffalo in the AFC finals. You know, even though I'm a Kansas City fan, I just thought their run might just slip this year. They'll be back next year. But I thought their run might slip this year. And I really had Baltimore and who did I say? I forgot the other one.
The Bills.
The Bills in the playing in the final. Baltimore's been like this all year. You know, like I saw a stat said that they've led every game to the fourth quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, they've been leading every game. And then they find a way to either getting disinterested or what have you. But they got to find a way to close games. They've got everything it takes. They've given him all kinds of, although some of them haven't worked out. You know, and I'm not a big fan of Odell, but not a big fan.
I remember that from last year.
Yeah, and so and he's doing just pretty much what I thought, nothing, but but no, and I love how Lamar has matured as a quarterback. Okay, he's standing back there. You got to give him that respect as a runner, but he's using that to his advantage of being able to take his time and find receivers downfield, open receivers, and they're giving him multiple weapons to work with. The run game looks good. This young kid, Mitchell, at the running back. Oh, yes. Oh, man, I like him a lot. I like how he runs. He runs hard. He runs with a purpose. Versus Sandy, the Los Angeles Chargers, okay? That coach, man, I'm sorry. They've got way, way, way too much talent. And this happens to them on a weekly basis as far as I can tell. They're in the game. They look like the better team. But they just fall apart, man. He makes decisions that just has me shaking my head. I'm like, what are you talking? What are you doing, dude? But so I'm really disappointed in the Chargers as a team, even though they're everybody's sweetheart, especially with Justin Herbert at quarterback. Kid's got all the skills and what have you that you want in a quarterback. He's got everything you look for, but it's just not materializing on the field. I know he's the coach as a defensive coach. And maybe that's part of the problem. He needs to get some, somebody. And he brought in a new offensive coordinator this year. When he didn't bring the guy in from Dallas to be his offensive coordinator.
Kellen Moore, yep.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's just not working out for him. But I still think Baltimore's on a good path. I still like the path that they're on, and they're going to be very formidable.
Absolutely. To you, Micaiah, what did you think about this game? Because as Mr. Greco was saying, the Chargers, it's a lot of self-inflicted wounds, shaky coaching, and this was a win that they really were supposed to have, but just couldn't find a way to get it.
Were they supposed to have it? I mean, at this point, it's just like you just know the Chargers are gonna do what they do. Mr. Greco was saying they're the younger version of the Bills, I guess, because they got the younger players. But they've been doing this, Mr. Greco, for nigh on the entire existence of the AFC West ever since dating back to my era with Phillip Rivers. Right. I mean, the last time they were good was I certainly can't remember, not in my lifetime. But LT was definitely solid. They had some years.
Yeah, they didn't make the AFC Championship
but
in 08.
They did the same thing with Dan Fouts.
Yeah. That's the name I was looking for, was Dan Fouts with the quarterback. But just the Chargers, this is just their calling card and just choking away big games. And this one was really of an odd game for me, because normally the way they lose is their defense can't stop a nosebleed, and Justin Herbert tries and does his thing, and he got no help. It's like was Mahomes' first year when he had the MVP season. Part of the reason he had those gaudy numbers is because the defense could not stop anybody. I mean, anyone remember the 53-50 Rams game where it was just points on points on points on points, just because Kansas City defense couldn't do anything. You had Chris Jones, but other than that, same thing for the Chargers. But this one, the Ravens, who had blown out the Seahawks, who are a wild card team, probably on the NFC side, maybe trailing off. At least that's what they're predicted to be, right? Trounced the Lions, who have been everyone's dark horse, headed into the year, and they've, been up and down. And then they come back, and then they just lay this kind of stinker against the Chargers. So it was, they won, but it wasn't overly impressive. I felt like it was a very defensive game, which is what Baltimore is built to do, because they definitely have top three, arguably the best defense in the league when they're playing and healthy. But it was odd to me because normally the Chargers are the ones to give up a lot of points. So you would have thought that the Ravens would have scored a lot more. But to hold them to 20, then it's the other side is like, well, you have a shot in that game because you got Justin Herbert, and you should be able to score that. But they get held to 10. And so it was one of those it was an odd way to lose, which I guess at this point is just par for the course for the Chargers. They find new ways to lose every week. But it is the last time I was on with you guys, I said Staley, up to this point, he's a defensive coach, and the Chargers can't get it done on defense. So it's just one of those things that's very head scratching. I've seen moments where I really do think Kellen Moore has helped Justin Herbert stabilize more. But then you have games like this, and it's just like you're kind of left scratching your head and wondering what happened offensively, because you held Lamar to 177 in the air and 1 TD, and I think under 50 rushing. So honestly, Lamar did not have a great game by his standards. So it's one of those kind of Lamar downer games, which means you should usually be able to go out and take it. But the Ravens defense did what they needed to, and then the Chargers just pulled another Chargers is what it basically boils down to. So I'm still not willing to squarely put a good amount of the blame on Justin Herbert until Staley gets fired at this point. It's just like, to me, you've got to give him another coach. You got to give him an offensive-minded coach. There's some blame to go for Herbert for sure, but I need to see him get a different coach. And then if he continues to still struggle, then I think we can have the conversation of Herbert's got all these weapons, but he's just kind of in that Josh Allen category. If he doesn't have the right coach to pair with him, to stabilize him and get the right offense that caters to him, he's just kind of up and down. So that's kind of where I'm at with the Justin Herbert side of things in the conversation.
Definitely. To you, Savon, what did you think about this game overall? And just like we've kind of been reiterating what the Chargers are not doing on both sides of the ball, and what keeps holding them back.
So I've listened to a lot of people talk about Justin Herbert, and at some point we have to put the spotlight on him, because you're the field general.
Not wrong.
Despite of the coaching, there's a lot of quarterbacks who've had terrible head coaches who still go out every single day. I don't think probably his rookie and sophomore season, I thought he had the tangible things to be a starting quarterback and consistently go to the AFC Championship or possibly the Super Bowl. Now I'm saying he's just a normal quarterback. I put him in the Purdy situation. I think it was a system type of quarterback that we've seen and we highlighted him well, but he's substantially not reaching that level of the pedestal that we put him on. And then we blame everybody else. His head coach, he doesn't have a running game. Eckler is still adjusting to the injury, but he was 2,000-yard rusher back-to-back season. So he has a running game. He has one of the most consistent wide receivers in Allen. So I mean, he has the weapons, and then I have a defense, and I think this was the biggest takeaway. Derek Ansley, who's the new defensive coordinator, who's familiar with mobile quarterbacks, and he's a product of Nick Saban. So he just became the new defensive coordinator, and I think that's why Lamar Jackson wasn't able to do as much because they were taking the top away. They were stacking the box. You're not going to take the top off with Zay Flowers. He was getting open a bit, but I think that with his defensive scheme, I think it kind of, downs down that running game. But back to Justin Herbert, we have to highlight him and put him in the spotlight. Are you really a top quarterback in the NFL? Do you really need the weapons or a new head coach? Will you get a head coach? Will you still be the same? So at this point, I'm tired of giving him a pass. Give him a pass. Thank you. This is what, 4th, 5th year in the NFL. We don't give quarterbacks pass.
That's the time. Yeah, that's the time. Yeah, really find out who you are as a quarterback. Yeah, it's
like Mac Jones. It's either crap or get off the crap or Mac. Like Mac Jones is another one we have to highlight. Are you real? We didn't know he wasn't a great quarterback coming out of Bama.
We didn't expect.
But he's a time manager. But it's at this
talk about a product of a gluttony of riches at Alabama. That was my problem with him coming out. It's like.
Of course he's gonna put up great numbers with Alabama. He got all the weapons in the world.
They run 4-3s, 4-2. So obviously you just got to throw it up. They'll go get it.
They'll get it.
But we have.
And then he goes to the Patriots, and then no offensive weapons because Bill Belichick refuses to grab anybody that's worth their salt on offense because he's used to Tom Brady throwing to milkmen and postal boys.
No, this is true. This is true. But we have to.
You make some. Go ahead, Savon.
No, just saying we got to put Justin Herbert under the spotlight now because they're 4-7. You have the weapons. There's no more excuses.
It's on you.
Moving forward, it's on you. Moving forward, you have to figure it out. Are you a great quarterback or are you a mediocre quarterback?
I really think it's a balance because we've seen him be great. I mean, he was great his rookie year when he put out all those gaudy numbers. So we know he can be great. It's just, I think we're in that category of he seems to be an up and down quarterback until I think that's where I would meet you in the middle, Savon, is I think I can agree he's up and down. We do have to put some more culpability on him. Brandon Staley just makes so many bad decisions. That's kind of what we were talking about with that Bills game, except that it's the whole year. So I think it's kind of a both and. Like you're right. In this game, this one is definitely on him. And that's why I said it was a head scratcher because usually he plays well enough to win. And then it's the defense absolutely chokes it away because they can't stop anything. This game in particular, I'm on board with you on putting him under the spotlight. Like, bro, you have to come up with more than 7 points on offense, 10 points on offense. Mm-hmm. So he had the two, the interception and then the touchdown. But other than that, it's just you got to do better than that.
Yeah,
in that game,
definitely.
You really do.
And now getting to the Broncos and Rams, Denver won their last game against the Browns, 29-12, and they're on a 5-game winning streak, which is a drastic change from where they were at the beginning of the season. The Rams beat the Cardinals 37-14 and are on a 2-game winning streak. And it's interesting because Denver, they had the more drastic change, but the Rams, they have been competitive throughout the season. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that. To you, Mr. Greco, which team has been more surprising in terms of their recent run and who could possibly get in the postseason?
Well, right now, as far as who might get into the playoffs, I'm probably leaning toward Denver as getting into the playoffs. The Rams, part of their problem this year was losing out on Matt Stafford. He means a lot to them. They had a very, very young squad. The majority of their makeup since that Super Bowl now are young players, first, second, maybe some third-year players. And they don't really know how to win, okay? Of course, they leaned on the wide receiver. He's been out all year, Cooper Kupp. He's been gone mostly. They found a sleeper in a young man, but he's a rookie. And, once they got some film on him, they knew what to do with him. And then when they couldn't completely stop him, they just put him out. He's hurt now, and what have you. So they're still learning how to win. I just don't see as many spots available in the NFC side of things for the Rams because, those first, you're going to get one of them poor teams out of that NFC South, Atlanta, Tampa, whatever. They're going to be in there. Philly, San Francisco, Detroit, Dallas, they're locked solid. Okay. They got a shot with this Minnesota, but I don't know. I don't see Minnesota staying up there. Denver, on the other hand, I know that everybody wants to give credit to the head coach, and he did come in and make a difference and what have you. Okay, and I'll give him credit for that. However, I think Russell Wilson. I think the other guys now are kind of buying into Russell Wilson. I think when he first got there last year, he had this persona about him, pretty boy. He's got the rapper wife and he's got all this kind of stuff. He's got his own, what does they say? He's got his own office in the locker room and things of that nature. I think a lot of guys was like, whoa, who is this dude? So I give Sean Payton credit. He got rid of all that and got Russell Wilson back focused on football. Okay. And with that in mind, Russell Wilson has them believing we can get in the playoffs. And he's got enough, there's enough weapons in there, especially they've got a good enough defense, even though it does slip up, to get into that playoff run. I'm looking at their opportunities to get in there, even though they're in more of a dogfight. I think with Pittsburgh and Cleveland, I see them slipping. I just don't see Indianapolis staying there. They're 6-5, and the Minshew's done a great job. But you got Taylor out now, so that's going to really hurt them. So I see the opportunity for Denver to get in there, even though they still have to battle with Houston. I can't give up on Buffalo totally, but I'm giving up on Buffalo, But so I think Denver has a better opportunity to get into the playoffs and make some noise than I do the Rams. I just think that with Stafford's finally getting back in there and he's trying to lead them, but I think it's going to be too little, too late.
Yeah, definitely. To you, Micaiah, are you kind of the same way, leaning towards like Denver having that better shot of making the playoffs?
This hurts me as a Chiefs fan, but yeah, I think I've leaned Denver. Although, you look at their schedules. Excuse me, just for a sec.
Yeah.
You look at their schedules, and at first I thought that the Broncos had the easier one. It was just going to be an uphill battle because they're in the AFC. But you actually look at it, I think they've probably got the tougher one. They've got Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, and then Chargers again. So I know we just dumped on the Chargers, but the Chargers divisional matchup, you never know how that's going to go. The Texans are red hot, so that's going to be a battle for them there.
I love them.
Lions are good on their side, and they have to go to Detroit. Detroit plays well in their building when they're in that stadium. Whereas you look at the Rams, they host the Browns this week and then go to the Ravens, which is going to be a tough game. But then they have the Commanders, the Saints, and then close out the year with the Giants. So those are 3 really winnable games. Sorry, guys. Oh, man, I don't know what's called my throat.
Don't forget about San Francisco. They end up with San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It was sorry. It was just out of my picture. So yeah. So that's gonna be a tough one too. But you look at the standings for the NFC, and it's just a clogged show in the middle. Like after you have the Dallas, who I think sitting at 8-3, right? 8-3, 7-4, something like that. They all drop then down to like 6-6. 5-6, and they're all clogged in there. You've got Savon's Packers that are looming right outside in the hunt. Then they're on the up and coming. You've got Minnesota clinging on for dear life, and then Seattle, who's been on the downfall. So I mean, I kind of see the NFC as like it's kind of wide open for those last 2 playoff spots. Whereas I think the Broncos have benefited from the teams that we thought were going to be good, ended up kind of choking it away. So you have the Bills. The Bengals, who unfortunately lost Joe Burrow, teams that would have been in the conversation for those other 2 playoff spots. But now you've had those essentially open up because those 2 top dog teams that we thought at the beginning of the year were going to be right there have ended up fading away. And so essentially the wild card spots for the AFC are kind of wide open, all three of them. So all that said, the reason that I'm going to go the Broncos is because their defense has just been figuring it out. That's a lot more impressive. With the quarterback situation, Russ has seemed to be improving and shaping up. So they have the better quarterback there. And then undoubtedly, I shouldn't say undoubtedly. I was about to say Sean Payton, but I mean, forget Sean McVay's on the other side. So the head coach is kind of a toss-up of what your flavor is, depending on, you like the young guy with the innovative system, or you like the dude who's essentially been the same story, just been doing it for longer. So the coaching kind of a push. But the reason I got to lean Broncos, and it hurts me as much as a Chiefs fan, is they seem to have really turned the corner from where they were at the beginning of the year. I mean, think about it, guys. They were dead last in defense. Dead last. And now they look like they're top 10 defense. I mean, I think I looked at the stat since their winning streak. They are, you don't think top 10, Savon? I mean, I think I saw a stat where they've only given up a combined 12 points, I think, averaging over their 6-game winning streak. So, I mean, maybe that is more of a testament to who they played, and that's certainly a possibility of more who they played. So I guess we'll see. But right now, I'm going to give it to the Broncos, I think, of the better chance, for the similar reasons that Mr. Greco said. The teams above them in the wild card, I think, are on shaky ground as well. I think Pittsburgh will hang on just because of how good Pittsburgh's defense is. And they'll start continuing to figure out. I think the Colts will start to fade away. So I'm looking for that wild card spot being either Browns, Pittsburgh, Texans, and then Broncos, kind of in that conversation of those four. And that's kind of where I see it boiling down to. So out of all those squads, I think that Broncos have a good enough one of sneaking in the playoffs there.
Yeah.
That defense come a long way since giving up 70.
Oh, yeah. What an improvement.
What an embarrassment. I saw that game. What an embarrassment, man.
Who does that?
I looked down at my phone.
I saw that score and I was like, was that a basketball score that somehow got glitched into the NFL? That's what I thought when I first saw it.
For you, Savon, would you are you going to make it a unanimous pick, Denver, or are you going to switch it up? Which one are you going to go with? Oh, I think he's on.
Lost
mute.
his mic.
I think you're on mute.
Mute. I'm gonna.
There he is. You want to rewind?
Run it back. I know what you said because I'm good at reading lips, so I think you mean he's going to change it up. But back it up. Let the people hear it.
I'm gonna change it up. I'm gonna give you the entirety of the stats. The defense was playing great, but they give up too many yards when it matters the most. Defense and rushing, they're last in the NFL. They give up 155 yards rushing. They're 23rd in the NFL. They give up almost 300 yards passing. And overall, they're 30th in the NFL. 30th in the NFL. And we just said they had the different, stronger schedule. So you're going against a hot Houston Texans team who averages 100-something yards a game. And we have this rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud, is playing out his mind. And they're not going to be able to stop this high-power offense. I understand they're playing good. I think in a situation, you're playing against a Cleveland team who lost their starting quarterback, lost their starting running back, lost their identity on offense, and then you beat them. Okay, cool. You beat Minnesota. Same thing. They were hot fire until their starting quarterback, Kirk Cousins, went down. And then that's their whole identity on offense because he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL before he got hurt. Then you beat we don't know Buffalo Bills team. And then the team that I do think they beat Kansas City, that was the turning point. I was like, okay, possibly. And then now the back end, you're getting to a tough schedule who the Lions love to run the football. Houston loves to run the football. And we all know it's so simple. Run the ball, play action, take it over the top. And I think that's in the early of the season, that's what the Broncos struggle with. And then haven't came into a squad who's running the ball efficiently enough, and they're about to on the back end. So I'm not convinced. If you're number 30th in the NFL, and I know you had a span of 5 games, you're playing really well, but there's still a back 9. If y'all played golf before, there's 18 holes. First 9 holes, you could go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And then you wake up the next day and I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what happened.
I lost 3 balls in my hat in the like. So I'm not convinced because Russell Wilson is still not putting up big numbers. If he was still Russell Wilson from Seahawks, taking it over top, extending plays consistently, then I'll be convinced. But last game, he had 160 yards with a touchdown. And they played a battered Browns team. So I'm not convinced. When they play the Lions, they're going to get crushed. When they play Houston this week, they're going to get crushed. And then everybody's going to say, oh, no. So
Savon's corner is going to be right again.
Savon's corner. Sponsored by Wellington and Savon.
To his point, they have been living off. Their defense has been living off turnovers, and that's why they've looked better during this 5-game winning streak. I don't know about the 30th because I think that unless you're looking at it and it's over their winning streak, that's going to take into account their first absolute dog water game. So I don't know if we can see that as it was taken over the whole year.
Yeah, whole year.
Then that's going to reflect poorly on them because of how absolutely atrocious they were on a historic pace for being the worst defense those first terrible games. So I think we got to look at when the defense is.
No, they were still giving up big numbers within those games. They just found a way to win off turnovers. And if we're convinced, defense wins championships, not in this millennium, because we've seen a lot of defenses non-existent and it's going back and forth with the offense. I'm not convinced with Russell Wilson. I used to be when he first came over. I'm still not. If Russell Wilson not averaging 200 yards passing or at least 50, 60 yards rushing, then it's not convinced. He's not going to be able to withstand in the long run. I know the question is who gets to the playoffs, but they're about to get into a season of 5-6 games where Max Crosby's at the end of it. That offensive line is not going to be able to stop him. Even Vegas is playing, offense is playing crazy, but the defense is still top 15, top 20. So they're going to get some good defenses. If this comes into a shootout, then Russell Wilson's not going to keep up. That running game is not.
Well, I would agree. I can see what you're saying, but the Rams, though, like I say, you're comparing Rams versus.
I like the Rams.
They don't have a quarterback. That's my thing with the Rams. They don't have anybody.
The Rams don't have nothing.
The strength of schedule.
Rams have nothing.
I like the Rams. The strength of schedule.
Well, that's definitely the winning point is the strength of schedule for sure. But the only thing that I push back with the Broncos is you got to balance out with a blend don't break kind of defense. Again, to your point, the reason I'm agreeing with you is turnovers can be a fickle thing. So if that goes away, then things start to turn around. But we do also have to remember, that there have been some historic defenses in the NFL's history that are very much in the bend, don't break. They'll let you get into the red zone, and then you're not moving once you get into the red zone. I think that's kind of where the Broncos are, but it's hard to tell because of how many turnovers they have been getting. And as relating to the Browns, I'm still with you in that I'm not convinced, but let's not forget that the Browns are a legit defense, so they make anybody look bad on offense. So especially if you're more middle of the road, uncertain question mark of a quarterback than what you've been. So I'd be a little hesitant about just taking the Browns and chalking up Russell as, he's still not figured it out. Again, I'm not saying that he has, but that's a really good Browns defense, especially defensive line.
134 for one touchdown in that game, by the way.
But that's to me, that speaks more to how good Cleveland is on defense than to how terrible Russell is on offense.
But where did Denver get the running game? Too. Where did Denver get that running game against Cleveland?
They let the younger guys finally.
They chewed up Cleveland on the ground.
It was because Russell Wilson was a part of that running game. He had 34 yards. When he contributes consistently with the run game and pass game, then I'm convinced. But he's not doing that every single game, and he's going to get in the schedule of
that's valid. That's valid.
That's point. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not convinced. Even LA doesn't have a quarterback. They can find a way to squeak out a win because their defense, I think, is still decent enough to get after the football and create what you said, fickle, which is turnovers is fickle in NFL. 1 week you're going crazy, next week you're not. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that they can make it to the playoffs. I think the Rams can squeak in there, even though they're in a tough standing in the division. But they got some other guys like Seahawks. So
it's gonna be it's a good comparison because
that's definitely where I agree with you. Is the NFC is much more wide open in terms of what their level of competition is because you've got all these middling teams vying for those last two spots, whereas the AFC is kind of more they're more established at the top end. I don't think it'd be a question that they'd miss it if the Bills and the Bengals were actually in it this year, because then you're only talking about one playoff spot that's open in the AFC, and which is why we thought
Right.
it was going to be so brutal with the AFC this year, is because if those teams were what they were supposed to be, add on, I know the last episode I was on, add on if the Jets had been what they were supposed to be, AFC would have been crazy. They've dug themselves too. No, they dug themselves in too deep a hole, man. It's too deep a hole.
No, man. I saw somebody say he's going to be he's going to make history. He's going to be the only quarterback to get hurt twice in the same injury.
There you go.
Please don't do that.
Yeah,
No, don't do that to me, Aaron Rodgers.
Stay
No.
No.
Pack it up till next season. Pack it up till next season.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Just wait.
And now getting into our Eagles 49ers preview. In this matchup, that the 49ers run a 3-game winning streak. The Eagles have the best record in the league. San Francisco has a great pass rush that can generate pressure, and Philadelphia is first in the NFL in fourth down conversion rate. And it's interesting because even this game is at Philadelphia. The 49ers are actually favored by 3, which has a lot of people, the Eagles, and they're like, okay, like, let's prove everybody wrong. Nobody respects us. And I feel as though this is going to be a really like neck and neck type of matchup. I'm going to give San Francisco the edge. I think Philadelphia they've been like close to the brink with a lot of these games, like about to win it, about to lose it. I'm going on a limb. I'm picking San Francisco for this game. I got Mr. Greco. Who you got? Who you got, Mr. Greco?
In this game, at this time of the season, I am favoring San Francisco.
Yeah.
At this game, if it was a playoff game, I wouldn't be. I'd be a whole lot more hesitant. Yeah. San Francisco's got more to prove. Yeah. Okay, that they're coming out. This Purdy, they're trying to get him back comfortable again. I mean, we all know they got all the weapons.